Senator Humphrey, we're very pleased to have with us the man who managed your campaign for presidency in 1968, your closest friend and political advisor, Mr. Foster Brooks. Hi, Hubie. I still can't figure out how the heck we lost. The only way I can figure it out, it must have been simply bad timing. You just happened to be running for president the same day Nixon was. One day, either way, you would have been a shoe. Then instead of Tricky Dicky, we'd have had Hubie the Boogie. Even as it was, we came pretty close. If one half of a person out of every 100 people who voted for Nixon had voted for him, for the senator, we would have won. That's all. Just one half a person. And if he voted for Nixon, you can guess which half the person it was. As Mr. Sinatra here just told you, I happen to be one of the senator's closest friends. Whom do you think drank all the punch that Hubert just pleased as? My friends, I taught him everything he knows about politics. Before I got a hold of him, he thought Henry Cabot Lodge was a motel. And that Barry Goldwater was a urologist. So I can assure you that Hubert Humphrey would have made a wonderful president, just as he made a wonderful vice president. And did you know that he was the most active vice president we ever had? He used to get up at 6 o'clock every morning so he could run down and collect his unemployment insurance. And he is such a generous and compassionate man. When he heard that Watts was burning, he sent the inhabitants a whole truckload of marshmallows. And unlike other politicians, you never hear any stories about Humphrey and Broads. know, because I'm the one that paid them all off. But there's no use crying over spilled milk, whatever that is. The 68 election is now a matter of record. There was nip and tuck between Nixon and Humphrey throughout the country. Nip and tuck. Unfortunately, Humphrey got nipped and the country got nipped.
You know, Joe Namath's career has been plagued with injuries. We have with us tonight the man who's responsible for patching up those injuries and getting Joe back on the field as soon as possible. Ladies and gentlemen, would you all please welcome the team physician of the New York Jets, Dr. Foster Brooks.
Good to see you. I can see you better than you can see me.
Bullshit.
No? We've known each other for a couple of years. And while we don't see each other too often, I just want to tell you ladies, you are looking at a young man. Well, I'll tell you, you're certain, I imagine you're looking at him. But there's one man you gotta hand it to, girls. You might as well, he's gonna get it anyway. I recall the first time I ever saw Joe Namath play football. I went to the game and I went early. I like to go early and eat a few hot dogs. And watch the different people come into the game, you know. And I was quite surprised. It's the first time I'd ever seen this happen, but I thought it was quite a pleasant experience. I looked up and there were two nuns coming to the game. And they sat right directly in the row in front of us, but immediately in front of the two fellows to my right. And they happened to be of the order that requires the headdress. I think I think it's called the coronet that goes, the hat that goes way out like that, like some of the sisters wearing the hospitals, you know, like the flying nun. Well, immediately, these two fellows to my right became very ungentle, very rude. One of them says, "How do you like that? Just come and drive 200 miles, see a football game, and have to sit behind something like that." The other one says, yeah, can't see a darn thing. I'd like to get away from here. And the other one says, I'd like to go anywhere, just as long as I knew there weren't any Catholics around. But at that time, one of the sisters turned around and said, "Well, why don't you go to hell? There are no Catholics down there." You know, I almost didn't make it here tonight. I had to perform an emergency appendectomy. Appendectomy on one of Joe's teammates. The operation went very well, except only once when my scalpel slipped. But the fellow was thinking anyway about getting a vasectomy. You know, ladies and gentlemen, on television land, with all the lights we have here in the studios, it's very, very difficult for those of us here on the day. Those of us here at the head table to see the folks immediately in front of us. But once in a while you hear something said by someone at one of the tables. And just a little while ago, I heard a lady say apparently to her husband, "Hon, I hope this show ends real soon because I gotta get out of here." And he said, "What for? What for?" She said, I've got heartburn so bad I can't see straight." He said, You haven't got heartburn when one of your bazooms is in the coffee." When I lean out like this, I can see a few things. But at my age, nothing like that bothers me anymore. Incidentally, do you have 2 nipples for a dime? It is really truly a great honor and a thrill for me to work with such wonderful football stars like Namath, Snell, and Boozer. Nothing personal. I've always loved football. In fact, when I was 12 years old, I won the local pass-kicking punt contest. And if you would like to get thrown off the air, try to say that 3 times in succession. I don't participate in athletics anymore. Athletics anymore. However, I support every athletic event that I possibly can. In my hometown, I was known as the #1 athletic supporter. In France, they call me Jacques. I used to play tight end. In fact, for 3 years straight, I was voted the tightest end in the whole league. Joe Namath is a remarkable athlete. What a fine specimen. I see he brought it with him tonight. Looks a little cloudy. I should send it to the president. He might make it perfectly clear. You know, people don't realize what terrible punishment a football player like Joe takes. I remember the first time that I treated him, he was suffering from exhaustion. He had bruises all over his legs, welts all over his face, and scratches all over his body. You never did tell me who the broad was, did you? Yes, football is a rough life. Last year I performed three operations on Joe's knees. One on his left knee, and one on his right knee, and one on his high knee. The Bubank used to come in every night and kiss it better. I keep telling Joe he's got to be more careful when he plays football. You know, sometimes when he goes out on the field, he never even wears his protective cup. Actually, it isn't a cup, it's a demi-tasse. Joe doesn't really realize how fragile his knees are. I remember last year I had to operate on his right knee. I'll never forget when I opened it up. The cartilage was where the tendon was supposed to be. I couldn't figure out, so I just sewed the darn thing up and gave him a hysterectomy instead. Incidentally, after that last operation, were you by any chance missing a shin bone? 'Cause I saw my dog burying one the other day. However, in spite of busted knees, bruised ribs, and broken noses, Joe Namath has always bounced back, which proves what sports fans have always known. There's nothing that can keep a good man down, except maybe a good woman. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Martini. As you have just heard, friends, I am the man in charge of Carol O'Connor's pubic relation. Excuse me, I'm afraid that I knocked the L out of that word. Many people wonder exactly what services a public relation man provides to the star. My duties are threefold. First, it is my job to create. It's my job to create a public image for the star. And second, I have to see that the star constantly receives favorable mention in the press. And thirdly, I must see that he has plenty of broads on the road. With Carol, the most difficult part of my job is convincing people that he is not like the character he plays in All in the Family. People are always confusing Carol Bunker with Archie O'Connell. But of course, they're totally different personalities. Archie is a right-winger. And in the last election, Carol was McGovern's man. At least until Eleanor McGovern made him break it up. People are always mixing up Carol and Archie. They think Carol hates people just because they're black. And that's not true at all. I was at Carol's house one night last week, and he had 2 black people for dinner. And they were delicious. You know, it's a wonderful experience working for Carol. His success hasn't changed him at all. He's still the same obnoxious slob he always was. Ooh, did I say slob? Well, excuse me, at that time I put in an L. Yes, friends, even though Carol is now a superstar, he never forgets the little people. In fact, right at this moment, he's paying the rent for 3 midget go-go dancers. Carol's just a regular guy. If you didn't know who he was, you'd never guess that he was a celebrity. Unless you happen to see the star-shaped John in his dressing room. That's where he twinkles. The press is always asking embarrassing questions of me about Carol. They keep asking, what does Carol make? And I tell them anything that walks. Incidentally, I wish I could tell you just how the rest of the All in the Family cast feels about Carol O'Connor. I wish I could tell you how Bob Reiner feels about Carol O'Connor. I wish I could tell you how Sally Struthers feels about Carol O'Connor and how Gene Stapleton feels about Carol O'Connor. None of them is here tonight. So I guess I just told you how they feel about Carol O'Connor.
We have talked much about Dean Martin's past tonight. One element which hasn't been touched upon is the fact that in his formative years, he was a member of the Boy Scouts. We are proud to have with us tonight the leader who helped form our man of the hour, his scoutmaster from Steubenville, Ohio, Mr. Foster Brooks.
As this boring bald buffoon just told you, I was Dean Scoutmaster in Ohio, in Steubenville. And I'm here at the MGM Grand Hotel tonight I'm here to salute. This bomb's passed. My bosom... My bosom swells with pride, something Ruth Buzzy might even envy. As I weave before you here tonight, I have come to pin a well-deserved merit badge on Dean Moore, on Deanna Bourbon. Well, I suppose not. When he was back home, he never had anything pinned on him. Lord knows this Steubenville fuzz tried many times. One day they nabbed him in an alley. He was siphoning a wallet. But they let him go off because he explained it was Boy Scout business. Leather crafts. You may ask why I became a Boy Scout master, why I undertook the responsibility of supervising a group of waifs, urchins, and young adolescents. Well, it's a dirty job, and somebody's got to do it. You may like it look. You may look. You may look at me and say, push first, tish, posh, tish, pish. Well, that's easy for you to say. The training and nurturing of this little shaver was a heavy load. Something I'm highly qualified in carrying. In fact, one might even say overqualified. I remember when this piffle pixie was a Cub Scout. The happy hours we spent of a summer evening sitting around the campfire in our little short pants, roasting our weenies. And, of course, warming our buns. One night he was almost drummed right out of the troop for faulty fire making. Instead of rubbing two sticks together, we caught him flicking his beak. We used to sit there by the fire, and everybody would talk about their everyone would talk about their ambitions. Dean's dream was to be a great surgeon. Mine was to be a great brain surgeon. Now, Dean's dream was to have been a great... Yeah, they'll never know it on the air, will they? Dean's dream was to be a great singer. Mine was to be a great brain surgeon. I'm sorry your dream wasn't fulfilled. This Latin log could have been a gifted surgeon. He was the first scout to perform an emergency vasectomy. on a great horny owl. To this day, that owl is looking for you, Dean. You just walk through any Steubenville woods, and you'll hear that bird singing pitifully. Hoo. Hoo. I get to studying my fire. Dean was always a call. ecology-minded. He never used his scout knife on a tree that didn't pull a knife on him first. On our first overnight hike, little Dean got lost near the top of a mountain. I ran into town to find the sheriff and some deputies to pitch in and help us look. Unfortunately, we couldn't find a posse to pitch in. I'm glad I said that right. We searched both sides of that hilly terrain and never found him until now, and I'm glad to see that you're finally over the hill. I am proud to say that this undersecretarian has lived the lesson the Boy Scouts taught him, like helping ladies across the street, which he still does. Every week he sends a big check to a big buxom blonde in apartment 2A across the street. He has learned the most important rules of life. Be prepared. Be ready. Keep yourself physically straight, morally clean, mentally awake. And never hit a soft 17 unless she pulls a knife on you first. As I leave you may ask why all these nice people on this dais have given of their time and traveled many miles to honor Dean Martin. As I said before, it's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it.
Everyone knows Mrs. Miller. She's the lady who's been in the audience for every one of Jack Parr's TV shows. Well, Johnny has a similar fan, and he's never missed the Tonight Show in 11 years. Would you all please welcome Mr. Foster Brooks?
Hiya, Johnny. I thought they were there for a while. They weren't going to get to me. I'm not saying it's been a long evening. When I sat down at the dais, I didn't need a shave. Hey, Ed. You look a little more smashed than usual tonight. Yes, friends, I can remember being in the audience for the very first Tonight Show. I was rolled. I was rolling in the aisles. Some yo-yo tied my shoestrings together. And I might say I've been there ever since. I was the night that Burt Reynolds was on, and Johnny asked him, how's every little thing? I was there the night he told Billy Graham he loved his crackers. And the night he introduced Ed McMahon's wife as Ed McWoman. Oh. And I was there the night when he asked Marcello Mastroianni if innuendo was the Italian name for preparation H. Watch it, John. Be a little careful. Those snakes are flying a little low tonight. I also happened to be in the studio the night that Johnny asked the lady door manufacturer to show him her knockers. Not to mention the night he was discussing Babe. He was discussing Babe. Baking with Diane Carroll and asked her to show him her brownies. Not to mention the night he told Mayor Bradley to call a spade a spade. And I was there the night that Willie Shoemaker, the jockey. I was the night that Willie Shoemaker, the jockey, was there and told Johnny he weighed only 92 pounds, so soaking wet. You. He told him that's what he gets for standing under his horse. I happened to be at the studio the night that he tried to imitate Moses, and tried to part Zsa Zsa Gabor's bosom. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have never missed a Tonight Show, which is a heck of a lot more than Johnny can say.
Well, tonight, Ralph, we're pleased to have with us one of your top assistants. You've given him the job of test driving all the new automobiles to see if they're safe for consumers. Would you all please welcome one of Nader's chief raiders, Mr. Foster Brooks?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Hi, Ralphie. Yes. Yes, friends, that is my job to test drive all new vehicles. Automobiles in the interest of safety. You know, you wouldn't believe how how unsafe some automobiles are today. I drove seven different cars a day, and they all smashed up. I drove one car today, and even the clock didn't work. It only had one hand on it, and it kept pointing to 130. And the turn signals were busted too. All the left one worked okay, but every time I switched on the right one, the darn car went backwards. The only thing I could get to work with the lights. But I nearly froze my rear end off driving with the front door open. It's really tragic, my friends, how many accidents happen in cars. I know, because I'm putting 3 of them through college right now. Of course, it's not just the manufacturer. It's just not the manufacturer. The folks who make them who are to blame. The Department of Highways doesn't make it any easier for the driver. They keep painting those wavy lines down the middle of the road. And then you get those dumb pedestrians. On the way over here, one old lady walked right in front of my car. I had to swerve right off the sidewalk to keep from hitting her. Many drivers have written to us asking, which is safe? Which is safer, the automatic transmission or the standard transmission? Personally, I don't care for the standard transmission. I mean, you've got the gas pedal for the right foot and the clutch pedal for the left foot. Now, how do you expect me to work the pedal in the middle? Other folks have written in and asked me what I think of SCP. SCP. I think it's delicious. Although I prefer Prestone with chicken and fish. Now, what most consumers are worried about today is the gasoline shortage. All I can tell you that if you're ever short of gas, do what Ralph does. Stick a gallon of baked beans in your tank. Does it work? You're darn tootin'.
Our next speaker has never met Don Rickles. Boy, that's a lucky guy. But he asked especially if he could come here tonight just to pay tribute to him. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. Foster Brooks.
Thank you very much. As the poor Frederican gentleman just told you, I have never met Don Rickles. In fact, he's probably wondering what I'm doing here. He has never even seen. He has never seen me before. He has never heard of me, and our paths have never crossed. However, Mr. Rickles, you and I do have an indirect relationship. You see, I'm fooling around with your wife. So you see, we do have something in common. I hope you understand, Don, that we have tried to keep this very, very discreet. So don't tell anybody, will you? My wife would be furious if she found out about it. Don, I really must compliment you on your spouse, Mrs. Pickles. I say that because she's a real dilly. And I must also admit you have a very lovely home. Incidentally, you're out of scotch. And if you happen to think of it, pick up some pretzels. As I say, we have tried to be very discreet about all this. We only see each other on the nights that you work. Unless, of course, you're having a matinee. In which case, we happen to do the same. Do you know, Don, what your wife and I love to do most? Watching you while you're on TV. When you're on, we just laugh and chuckle and giggle, and sometimes we even turn the sound on. And we're always sad when you finish your act. That means you're on your way home, and I better cheese it. Which reminds me, you're out of Velveeta, too. Please, Don, don't blame your lovely wife for any of this. Our getting together was all my doing. It's all my fault. I happen to be the one who answered her ad in the Hollywood Free Press. You know, your wife thinks very, very highly of you, Don. She tells me you are a wonderful man. And I know that you must be to put up with all her snoring. She tells me that since she's been Mrs. Rickles, She says every day with you is Thanksgiving. By golly, that's what she gets for marrying the turkey.